Okay, so am I live? Got no idea if I'm live. Oh, okay, so I must be then. I must be live. Okay, so sorry folks, I'm actually just trying something out with my Zoom, so hopefully this will be okay. So now I'm live on Instagram. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining me on the planet. My name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So today I am talking about how Black history builds confidence. All right, I'm talking about how Black history builds confidence. Hi, thanks for joining. So, just as a little bit for those of you that have joined that don't know anything about me, so I am the founder of the Art of Greatness, and I have a mastermind, and I support Black women who are struggling with self-love, sisterhood, and sobriety. So, I came into doing my own work, my own personal journey on this healing road back in 2009. And I was struggling with a relationship. I came out of the relationship and I was like, do you know what? I need to figure out what on earth is going on. I need to figure out why I seem to end up in these relationships that are not good for me. So I decided to go into 12-step recovery so that I could have an understanding of what was going on for me. I didn't want to just make it all about them. Even though the relationships were really toxic, I needed to figure out what was going on for me. Hi, thanks for joining. So basically, I went into 12-step recovery, learned so much about myself, but what was missing was the cultural context. I didn't understand what it meant being a Black woman doing this work. I didn't understand how to incorporate living under the system of racism and what that meant in terms of how I would take care of myself as a Black woman. So then I just became obsessed with reading, figuring out, being more self-aware of what I was thinking, what had I internalized, all of that kind of stuff. And stuff just started making a lot more sense as to why I behaved the way I did, why there were certain things going on in my family that I couldn't figure out before. And it was really liberating to be able to understand that. You know, my parents are from Jamaica, and yeah, I just, which means, the fact that they're from Jamaica means that there's 240 odd years of chattel slavery, trauma, all that kind of stuff. So I really, really needed to get myself together. I really needed to figure out what was the impact of that on who I am and what I've been doing. So it was just really good. It was just really good to be able to make that connection between those things. And as I've learned and grown and gone through my own healing process, gone to therapy, then training as a therapist as well. I've got not even 1 year now. I've only got a few months left to go before I'm fully qualified. But I've shared my journey. I've shared my journey of training. I've shared my journey, my own. Those of you that have been, following me for a while know that I'm quite transparent and quite open about my own journey and process as well of healing. And yeah, that's how the Art of Greatness was born. And I feel really grateful that I'm at the position now where I'm able to not only teach, but I'm actually still growing as I'm, training as a therapist. So that's a little bit about my story if you hadn't been to any of my broadcasts before. So yeah, today's topic is all about how Black history builds confidence. So it's Black History Month in the UK right now. So happy Black History Month to everybody. I know that there is a thing about, I do have a kind of issue with Black History Month in the sense that I find, I find Black History Month a bit tokenistic in a sense, but the way that I see it, it's like a reminder, okay? It's like a reminder for, if I've fallen behind on my own Black history education or what I'm doing with my children or whatever. It's just a reminder for me to kind of step up my own understanding of what's going on for me in terms of my culture and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's good. So I'm just reading some of the comments. So Smiley saying, wow, my mother's from Peru and I never realized that her history of abuse may have been passed down. Thank you. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff that I talk about. It is really, really important to think about that because it is going to have an impact. And this is one of the reasons why I teach what I teach, because even though we might understand that intellectually that abuse has been passed down through our families, we don't really understand the context of it within how we behave. So that's why it's important to understand all of this stuff, because it empowers you. It gives you an opportunity to be able to really think about, well, actually, what was going on? What was going on for me? So you think about it within the context of your own family, and think about it within the context of our history in terms of slavery and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important. So this is Black History Month. Just going back to Black History Month. Black History Month is important because it's an important way to rethink, to rejig, and to re-evaluate what's going on for us. So I'm going to be talking about confidence. Okay, I'm going to be talking about confidence today, how Black history builds confidence. So the first thing that's important is that Black history is a powerful mirror, okay, of what's possible. Black history is a powerful mirror of what's possible. What we're capable of doing. You know that when I was at secondary school, which is quite a long time ago, the only stuff that we learned in history about Black history in particular was things like slavery. We did a bit on civil rights, and that was it. It was really lame. It was, and it just triggered a lot of shame. It triggered a lot of shame. I didn't feel confident about Black history at that time because they weren't teaching anything. And I think that much has not really changed. I mean, my daughter's come home from school, she's 13. And, obviously they talk about slavery and stuff. There's a few little bits and pieces that have changed. And they were reading one of Akala's books as well, I think, in school, which is good. So things are shifting, but there's still room for more stuff to be taught. And ultimately, they shouldn't just be talking about this stuff during Black History Month. It's a bit patronizing. It is tokenism to think that, because it's Black History Month, we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about Black history because it's Black History Month. No, Black history is world history. Okay, Black history is world history. So this stuff needs to be taught all the time. It should be taught as in your normal history class. In your standard history class, it should be taught. So when we can sort of like look at our own history and do our own self-education around our Black history, it empowers us. Okay, it empowers us because then, especially if you're reading books from authors that look like yourself, or look like us, it means that we are going to get more. We're going to get more of a truth. We're going to get the truth because the stories are written for us, by us. We're not just going to get some watered down version or some sort of manipulation of the truth that like what they teach in school. They're very selective about that, what they want to teach, because they're very strategic about wanting to maintain that sense of power. They don't want Black history to be taught in schools, because it's going to turn so many things on its head. Okay, if they start teaching it in schools, they don't want to. So this is an opportunity for us, especially if you're a parent, to use this month to realign your values, to realign what you're talking to your children about, and educating yourself, thinking about, okay, well, how much do I know about history and stuff like that? One of the books I absolutely love, okay, if you haven't got this book already, please go and buy it. Okay, if you haven't got this book already, please go and buy it. Okay, it's 100 Great Black Britons. One of the reasons why I love it, number one, is because sometimes Black history can focus on all of the stuff that's going on in the US, and there's not always as much history, as much information about what's going on in the UK. And I absolutely love this book because it does focus on the stuff that's going on in Britain, and it's closer to home. So there's a lot more stuff to identify. I love this book as well because there's only sort of like maybe 2 or 3 pages on each person. So it's a really nice condensed version. There's pictures in it as well of all the different people. And it's great. I mean, my daughter had to do a project recently she had to pick somebody to do in Black Britain and write. She had to either write an essay or she had to create a poster on somebody who she thought should be celebrated during Black history. And she actually used this book to pick somebody. And she picked, what's the class? She picked Gregory Burke. So she did a poster on him. And it was really good. She got pictures and stuff off the internet, and she read about his life. And he was a psychiatrist from Jamaica that made a lot of, he wrote a lot of different papers and stuff like that on Black mental health. And normally when we talk about Black mental health, people will talk about Amos Wilson or Dr. Wilson, which are from the US. So it's just really nice having that having somebody so close to home that is actually doing stuff in the UK, which is really, really important. It just goes to show that there are so many of us, there are so many powerful people in our history and contemporary as well. And that's another thing I love about the book. There's contemporary people in there as well, that we can celebrate. And that mirror is very powerful for us. It tells us that we matter. It tells us that we're smart. It tells us that we can do things, you know, despite living under the system that is, you know, that is anti-Black, that despite the trauma that we have to live with every day for the stuff that we see on social media, all of that negative stuff we see all the time in the media. The fact is, there are a lot of us that are doing some amazing things. Okay, there's a lot of us that are doing amazing, amazing things. So we need that mirror. Okay, we need that mirror telling us what our contemporaries are doing that's powerful, what our people in history have done. You know, I love reading about Marcus Garvey's work as well, because the fact that this brother did so much, created this massive movement. Okay, he created this massive movement, a global movement, okay, of Black empowerment, and he did it without no internet. Okay, he did it without no internet. So, you know, it's like understanding the power that we have as a people to be able to do things. So use your Black history to be inspired. Use your Black history to empower you to do the things that you're scared of doing. If people like Marcus Garvey can do it, if people like Madam C.J. Walker can do it, you know, and all these other, you know, great Britons that have done these things, okay, despite all the adversity and stuff that we have to deal with, we can do it. So it's about finding people that can help you, finding people that can, if you don't have a lot of confidence, find a space that's going to help you build that confidence. Okay, one of the things that I do in the book club is I run a so one of the things I do in the mastermind is I run a book club. We're currently reading this book at the moment, What Mama Couldn't Tell Us About Love. Okay, it's an amazing book, and there's a lot of stuff, and there's so many different topics that we talk about. And this week we're talking about, last week the last session we did was about depression, and this week we're finishing off that chapter around depression, and it talks about how trauma and how, you know, different stuff that went on in our families, abuse or whatever, how that can contribute to us, and as well as living under the system of racism, how that contributes to many of us being depressed. And so we don't just read the book. What I do, we read the book live in the session, and then you know, there's a discussion afterwards. It's all confidential. I don't record the session because it's important that people feel safe enough to share. So it's confidential. And then you know, there's a huge library as well in the mastermind, and so I always direct people to stuff in the mastermind that's going to be able to help them. I create journal prompts as well for each chapter, so people have the opportunity to really unpack you know, what's come up for them in the session. And so yeah, if you're interested in joining us for the book club, it's on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. London time. Click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Okay, so again, these are things where we can use our history. Okay, there's stuff that we're reading about, and some of the stuff in this book is difficult to read, but we use our history to learn. Okay, we use our history again to empower ourselves to do other things, and you know, that includes confidence. You know, sometimes our history can make us feel ashamed. Like I was saying before, when I was at school, I didn't feel proud of our history because there were any teaching things that just compounded the shame. You know, so it's about finding a space to be able to build on your confidence. Okay, and to be able to do that, because that's what they do in the book. They talk about our legacy, the painful legacy that we have around slavery, and how we can use the tools that we have in the present day to rebuild our confidence. Okay, so click the link in the bio if you're interested in joining us for the book club for that. So the second way that Black history can build confidence is that it gives you an opportunity to realign your cultural values. Okay, so a lot of us tend to just stick to the values that our parents had. We just kind of internalize them, and we just do what our parents did. It's very not, you know, there's not very many of us that may sort of sit down and think, well, actually, what are my values? What are the things that are really important to me? We just kind of crack on with the day, we crack on with what we're doing. And, you know, we don't always think that intentionally about, actually, do I really think that that's okay for me? Or is it really my parents' story? That doesn't mean that you're disrespecting what your parents think, but it's okay for you to think about what your values are. Okay, it's okay to think about what your values are, and also within the context of culture and racism and all of that kind of stuff as well. It's about you exploring What are the values that you've internalized under the system of racism? Okay, what are the values that you've internalized under the system of racism? When you look at Black history, when you look, whether you want to go right the way back to you know, to Egypt and our ancient ancestors, and the way that the spirituality and the way that they talked about things, and they talked about, you know, the concept of ma'at and all of this sort of stuff. When you think about all of that, you know, are your values in alignment with those things? What's important to you? Okay, what is important to you? Are your values in alignment with what you're doing? Okay, so when you look at history, our history, whether you're talking about ancient Egypt or whether you're talking about contemporary people that inspire you, ask yourself that question. You know, ask yourself that question. Are you in alignment with your cultural values? Is Blackness an important part of your daily living? Do you use your Blackness to empower yourself on a daily basis? Okay, is it something that becomes a point of shame and a point of aversion, of hiding? And this is something that might not happen consciously, it might happen unconsciously. Because I know for me, it was definitely unconscious, but I was definitely doing it. There was an anti-Black narrative going on in my brain, and that's because of the system that we live in that's constantly telling us that we're not good enough. You know, so I had to be, the more self-aware I became about this, and this is why it's important for us to be able to, I'm just going to plug in my phone. I don't want it to conk out. Just give me 1 second. This is why it's important for us to be able to have honest conversations about these types of things. Because if we're not having honest conversations about what we've internalized under the system of racism, we can't change it. Okay, we can't change what we're not aware of. And so we have to be willing to be aware. We have to be willing to have the conversation about what we've internalized. When it comes out of your unconscious into your consciousness, then you can make an informed choice about, okay, well, this is the impact that it's having on me. This is what I'm internalizing. This is what I think about myself. This is my internalized racist is telling me that my Blackness is not good enough, that my skin is too dark, that my hair is too nappy, that, you know, for whatever reason, Blackness is, you know, those anti-Black conversations are there. Okay, those anti-Black conversations are there. So someone's saying in the chat, when I finally realized it in my 40s, I was so ashamed of myself. Do you know what? Again, it's not an opportunity to, when you realize that that's your thinking, that's not an opportunity to, don't use that as an opportunity to beat yourself up again, because that's just more anti-Blackness. Okay, use that as an opportunity to go, do you know what? I understand that I've internalized that. So what can I do? What can I do about that now? Okay, what can I do about that now that's going to flip that around? If you go to my website, if you go to heal.juneallen.net, I have a free PDF with 101 simple self-love tools. Okay, 101 simple self-love tools. So you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. You'll find a link there that says free. If you go to free, you can then download it. But you know, if you're struggling with confidence, or you're struggling with really simple, easy ways to nurture yourself about this, then you can download this thing for free. And there's loads of stuff in there. You know, it doesn't have to be huge gestures. It can be really, really small things about, you know, at the moment I'm actually going through you know, looking for some Black art and looking for affirmations that I enjoy, so that I can print them off and put them in really nice frames and put them up around the house, you know, because I really want, I want to be reminded, you know, it's kind of, so it becomes subliminal. I really want my daughter to be able to see these affirmations, to be able to see Black art. You know, when we're at home, I think sometimes it's easy to minimize or take for granted how much power we have in our homes to basically counteract a lot of that anti-Blackness. We see a lot of anti-Blackness on TV, we see it in magazines, we see it on the internet and all the rest of it. But your actual home can be a reflection of Black girl magic, you know? So, you know, I've printed off some really nice pictures of, there's a great book, actually, I need to order it, called Vintage Black Glamour. So it's got people like Eartha Kitt, Pearl Bailey, just all of the amazing, I love the women in that era, Dorothy Dandridge, people like that. I love all those women. So I'm printing all of those women off and then putting them in frames and putting them up around the house, you know. Poetry as well. People, poems like, you know, Maya Angelou's I Rise, Phenomenal Women, you know, all of these, Toni Morrison, you know, just print them off and put them up in your house. You know, these are historical giants. These are historical giants that are reminding us how amazingly powerful we are, you know, how amazingly powerful we are. So use these people, use these scholars to empower yourself, use these scholars to reverse that anti-Black thinking that we have, okay, so that we can actually, you know, be and stand in our greatness. You know, we deserve all of this. Okay. So the third and final way that Black history can build confidence is that we use our history, okay, to learn from those mistakes. Use the mistakes in our history to learn from them and rebuild a different legacy. So I'm talking specifically about a family history now. I'm not talking about history with other people. I'm talking about your history. What is your legacy going to be? Okay, what is your personal legacy going to be? What generational stuff are you going to break? What commitment have you made? Okay, whose shoulders are you going to stand on? You know, if you're a parent, what commitment have you made to your children and to yourself that are going to empower your children to do better? You know, our parents, my parents' generation had a different experience. My parents came over, you know, during the Windrush era. You know, they just came over here after all the lies that they were told back in Jamaica. I think I remember my parents saying that the way that the propaganda and stuff they had over there was like, oh, you know, the streets are paved with gold and all this nonsense when they were in the Caribbean. And they wanted to, you know, they sold them this lie that they would come over here and they would be welcomed and all the rest of it. And all my parents got over here was cold, racism, you know, and it was hard work for them. It was hard work for them, you know. So their reality is very different. They came over here to build a better life for themselves, and they were limited. You know, they were limited in what they could do. So it's my responsibility to think about, okay, well, there was, you know, they came over here to build a better life. They gave me that opportunity. I was born here, so obviously there are things that there might be opportunities that I have here that I might not have had if I was born in Jamaica, but it's also my responsibility to break some of the generational patterns that didn't work in my family. There are things about parenting that, you know, that didn't work for me, that I didn't want to do with my child. So I've basically, my legacy is going to be this work. My legacy is going to be raising my daughter in a different way that I was raised. You know, there are different things that I'm going to do. And this is something that is important, you know, for you to think about. What is your legacy going to be? And I know sometimes, you know, when you're trying to get through the day, you're trying to get your work done and you know, you're doing your parenting, you're juggling this, juggling that. You don't always think about what your legacy is going to be because you're just in the moment. You're just in the moment. But it's so important when you're intentional about this stuff, when you can be intentional about this stuff, that's when you know that your legacy is going to be something. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. Just committing to being a more loving parent, just being committed to being a more present parent, that in of itself is a huge legacy. That in of itself is a huge legacy. You know, the fact that I've never hit my daughter. Okay, this is something that I'm very strongly, I feel very strongly about. I've never hit my child, and this is something that I'm really proud of, that it's not going to be passed on because my daughter's not experienced this, so she won't do it to her children. That is a pattern that I really wanted to break. It's part of my upbringing. You know, I found it quite traumatizing. I had to work through a lot of therapy. I had to work through a lot of therapy, not just experiencing it myself, but actually witnessing it. And I know that a lot of, you know, there's a lot of us have experienced this in our families or whatever, and so it's almost become part of the culture, which is not cultural. Okay, it's abuse and it's an internal, it's anti-Blackness. Okay, it's white supremacy on autopilot. That's what it is. Okay, I'm calling it out. It's white supremacy on autopilot. I didn't want to pass that on to my child, so I made a decision. That's no disrespect to my parents, because at the end of the day, they did what was done to them. And what was done to them, and what was done to them, and what was done to them, and all the way back to the plantation. Okay. the oppressor beat our enslaved ancestors, and then they beat their children. That's how it got passed down. And this is the power of doing this work. This is the power of doing this work. Okay, you begin to understand these types of connections with things, and then you can make a different choice. You get to make a different choice. Okay, so what is your legacy going to be? Okay, what is your legacy going to be? What history are you going to leave for your children and your family and all the rest of it that is going to empower them to be able to stand in their greatness? Okay, that is really, really important. This is a really simple way to build confidence in just really thinking about these things, and start there. Start thinking about what is working for you. What is working for you that is going to be an important part of your legacy, and what needs to change. What are the things that you want to change, and start there. Okay, if you're interested in joining me for the book club, then you can click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Is that Jackie I see in the comment? Oh, hi, Jackie. I've just seen you on there. Lovely to see you. I need to email you, actually. I need to email you because I owe you something. I know I promised you something. I'm going to email you about that today. So apologies for taking so long to get back to you. So family, if you've got any questions or anything about anything that I've shared today, drop me a DM, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Okay, so have an amazing Black History Month so far. We're only 6 days in, and I will see you next time. All right, take care. Bye. How do I end it? I don't even know. Okay. So now surrender live on the okay. How do I end it on here? How do I end it on? Okay. Okay, then.